Welcome back, friends. I'm so glad that you are keeping up with the story. To recap, Emma Grant has been threatened, had her apartment blown up, and now she's being held in exchange for drugs Rivera planted on her. Are you as worried about her as I am? Encourage me to continue to bring exciting stories like this by liking and sharing, and most of all, subscribe. Now let's see where this goes. Not too far away, someone shoves a sandwich into Emma's hands, and when she finished eating it, a soda. Grateful to have something in her system, Emma asks if she could use the restroom. Professor Grant, I know you're a smart woman, so please don't make me regret treating you nice, the leader said. Another pair of hands hoists her up and leads her to the bathroom. She's told to keep her eyes closed until they tell her to open them. Emma nods. Okay, Teach, you can open them now. Call out and close them when you're done, the Hispanic voice says. I'm done, Emma calls out a few minutes later. Hands reach out for her. The blindfold is back in place, and she's led back to the chair. Get some sleep, Teach. The chair reclines, and Emma realizes that she's not being released. Fatigue, cold, and frustration war with her, but sleep wins. At the station, the Special Investigation Unit worked through every single angle and came up empty. Stillwell, the suit in charge, is frustrated. Gentlemen, I refuse to lose the opportunity to capture Sterling. We have 8 hours to find them, and I suggest you try harder. Do we have anything from NJPD? Sir, NJPD confirms that the plate is fake. I spoke with an officer, Whitfield, who says that there had been an influx of bogus plates in the state. One agent relays. So we can safely assume that the van did not originate from New Jersey. What about the garages in the vicinity? Are any of them open or were late this evening? Another agent answers in the negative. So we have no leads to the van and no possible location where the kidnappers could be? Asked Agent Stillwell. He stares hard at his team as if that will motivate them to some positive action. Earl awoke with a start and a grimace. There was that horrible taste in his mouth again. By his watch, it was 5 in the morning. He had slept all of 2.5 hours. He roused Paul up, and they headed back to the precinct. Paul entered the squad room where the SI unit had set up. Equipment of every description took up every available space and desks, and Agent Stillwell stood in the middle of it all, barking orders. Gentlemen, Agent Stillwell called out, while you were getting your beauty sleep, we had our noses to the grind. Are you well rested, Detective Solano? Earl lifted an eyebrow. Yes, sir, I am, thank you. What can we help you with? Well, I suppose we could bring you up to speed. NJPD is having trouble with bogus plates, and we've cleared every chop shop, garage, and machine shops in the area. Our best bet is to wait for the call and take it from there. Stillwell looked pleased with himself. Earl tried hard to keep a straight face. These guys had all night, and with all those fancy equipment, hadn't come up with anything? Bureaucratic monkeys, he thought privately. Sir, may we talk with you privately? He asked. Agent Stillwell's smile faded. He gestured toward an empty office, and they followed him in. What's on your mind, gentlemen? Sir, last night my partner and I thought about it, and we agree with your assumption about the van and fake plates. We also figured the machinery sounds are consistent with warehouse operations. We figured that the customs warehouse at the airport, which by the way is close to the college, would be a more likely hiding place for the kidnappers, Earl relayed. Stillwell glared at them and rushed back to his agents. He barked orders to mobilize a unit to go investigate. Earl shook hands with his partner and followed Stillwell back to the floor. Detectives Solano and Derrick have given me a very good possible, gentlemen. I want those smugglers boxed up. By 10 o'clock, the agents had confirmed the warehouse and the possibility that the kidnappers and the professor were there. Then it was strategy time. While Earl and Paul headed to the phone booth at the college, Agent Stillwell and his team were in place. Emma awoke to a lot of noise. She could hear people talking all around her. She couldn't understand why no one thought it odd that there was a woman bound to a chair wasn't out of place, and she couldn't believe that she slept. She ached all over and she shivered with cold. Teach, you better wake up. In a few minutes we are going for a ride. Emma nodded and asked if she could use the restroom again. Okay, as soon as we hear from your boyfriend, we drop you off and that's it. The phone rang at noon. Earl picked up quickly. Solano. Ah, detective, it warms my heart to know that you are on the job and prompt. Okay, pay attention. I want you and only you to drive to Kennedy Airport. Across from the airport is the Holiday Inn. The hotel has an exercise room with lockers in the back. I want you to rent one and place the cylinders in it. Then I want you to leave the key for Mr. Smith at the desk. Then you leave. Once I have the cylinders, I will call 911 to let the cops know where the teacher is. If anything goes wrong, the teacher is no more. Do I make myself clear, detective? The distorted voice insisted. Crystal, replied Earl. After the line went dead, Earl pulled the recorder from the receiver. Back at the station, they replayed the recording, and Stillwell handed Earl the gloves. It's up to you now. We were able to search the customs warehouse at the airport. The smugglers were gone, but there was evidence that she was there. We found remnants of food and a nylon rope that they may have used to tie her up with. They also dumped the van. Are you going to follow me? Asked Earl. We've already got men there. It's just a matter of repositioning them, Stillwell informed him. Paul clasped hands with him, and Earl left. He drove to the airport as instructed, rented a locker, and placed the gloves in it. Then at the desk, he asked for an envelope and put the key in it and wrote Mr. Smith on it. Earl drove back to the precinct to wait for the call and found that the SI agents had cleared out. At the Holiday Inn, the attendant at the registration counter went on his break and another employee had taken his place. That had everyone go on high alert. The agents were in position all over the hotel and all eyes were on the locker room. Nothing happened until the original attendant returned from his break. A woman approached and asked for a key. The attendant handed her one, and unerringly, she walked to the same locker Earl had rented. She opened it and placed a gym bag in it. She didn't take anything out. The agents descended on her. They searched her bag to find only gym apparel. Angrily, she reclaimed her bag, vowing that they'd hear from her lawyer. Stillwell went back to the counter and asked for the key left for Mr. Smith. The key the woman used was for a locker 3 rows down, but fit the locker Earl had rented. They reviewed footage from the locker room and found nothing suspicious. The woman continued to deny doing anything wrong, and she left in a cab, smiling in the back seat. When she reached her destination, she was greeted with enthusiasm. My dear, you were great. It's going to take those jerks days before they figure it out. Here's your money. Don't spend it all in one place. Paul and Earl sat near dispatch waiting for the call. Every time a call came through, they perked up only to be disappointed time and again. Earl had no reason to believe that they wouldn't get the call after all. The smugglers must have picked up the cylinders by now. Hey, you guys, did you hear what happened to the SI agents? They got jerked bad, another officer told them. Johnson was there, he can tell you, he said. Hey, Johnson, over here, he called out. Johnson was a fellow narcotics detective who moonlighted at the airport hotel. When word got out about SE's operation, he positioned himself to watch. He watched Solano enter and do his thing and then leave. No one could explain how the cylinders left the locker without them knowing. Earl and Paul cornered Johnson for answers. He didn't know any more than what he'd seen. Paul took Earl's car keys and they headed out to the hotel. There they ran into Stillwell, who pulled them aside. He didn't want them around, but he wasn't stupid either. Those two were more on the ball than his team was. What are you two doing here? He asked them. We came to help, Paul answered genially. We heard that things hadn't gone according to plan. Did you dust the locker for prints yet? You must think we're amateurs. The locker is clean, and surveillance shows only the woman opening the locker. We've already guessed they had things set up before we got here. What we don't know is how they got the cylinders out before the woman showed. We're tracking the cabs that station out here. Did you get the call about the professor? That's why we're here, Earl said. If they played you, we don't think we'll be getting a call either. So if we work with you, we find the professor. Stillwell's phone buzzed in his pocket, and he stepped away to answer. He came back smiling. We've the woman in custody. If you'll excuse me, I've got a suspect to interrogate. We'd like to tag along too. Perhaps the woman in question knows something that might help us locate the professor. Earl had no intention of letting Stillwell out of his sight. That's a hard no, but rest assured that the professor's whereabouts will be part of my interrogation. I suggest you go back to the station to wait for my call or theirs. Paul quickly grabbed his partner when Earl balled up his fists. Agent Stillwell, you're right. We'll leave you to do your job, and we'll do ours. Paul dragged Earl to the car and only let go once he was seated inside. Earl, old buddy, we're going to find your lady love, but you need to keep a cool head. Those jerks are only interested in getting their hands on the owner of the cylinders, and they don't care jack shit about Emma. So I suggest we figure this out ourselves. Let them obsess about the drugs while we concentrate on finding Emma, Paul said with a smile. Okay, Earl agreed. What's got that smile on your face? Paul showed him another smile. Agent Stillwell doesn't know Jack and I don't think this woman will either. She was probably used as a decoy. What we have to figure out is where they left Emma after they got the cylinders. I'm thinking the cylinders are more important than holding on to Emma. Emma hadn't heard anything in quite a while. Her captors brought her to a place she assumed was where Earl was to come for her. She was hungry and cold and very much alone. They'd tied her hands behind her back again and blindfolded her as well. "Hello," she called out. "Anybody here?" Her voice echoed around her and no one answered. "Hello?" she called out louder. Still no reply. She was colder than she could remember being. She balled up her body to pass her arms up front and then removed the blindfold. With her teeth, she went to work on the rope, only it wasn't rope. They'd secured her hands with zip ties. It took an hour and a half to bite through and then her hands were free. She could feel her gums bleeding and rubbed her tongue over them, but her hands were free. Once her eyes adjusted to the dark, Emma stood up. She deduced that she wasn't in the back of the van anymore, because this was wider and the ceiling was higher. It smelled horrible too. She waited for her legs to get steady and walked the length of it, immediately identified it as a trailer. That would explain the echo, she thought. "Help! Help! Help!" she screamed. Emma repeated herself 3 more times. She stopped when her throat began to feel strained. Wherever she was, it was isolated and the chances of anyone hearing her were slim, she thought. But she wouldn't give up. She'd call out in timed intervals until someone heard her. "Oh God, please help Earl find me," she whispered. She slid her body down to sit. She cried out of desperation. Earl was probably searching frantically for her by now. It could be days before that happened, and if it was longer by then, she will have developed hypothermia. Beyond that, she will have lost her mind. Emma lost what little control she had left and screamed and then started to laugh. She laughed until she couldn't breathe, and then she cried again. Then she fell into an exhausted sleep. She awoke an hour later to the scraping sound and realized that she wasn't alone. She was eternally grateful she had worn pants. She tucked the hems into her ankle boots, then shook herself. There was mice in here with her, and when one scampered over her feet, she screamed and stood up. "Oh, Earl, please find me. God, please help him find me." Her voice was hoarse now and tired, but she wasn't going to sit down. The detectives returned to the precinct to find Matt, Emma's ex-husband, and Lindora Dade waiting for them. Lindora started to cry, and Matt looked like he wanted to tear something apart. Paul escorted them to a secluded area and left them. Earl thought that honesty was best. He told them that Emma was still missing and that he and his partner were doing everything in their power to find her and bring her back safely. Matt took him aside. It was understood between them that Emma was important to both of them. Earl admitted that he loved her. "I thought so. When you find her, don't let her go." "Don't worry, I won't," Earl assured him. "So what are you really doing to find her?" "I know what you said, but what is being done? I don't know what to say to our daughter." "I promise you, we'll find her soon. If you'll excuse me, I have to get back to work." Earl led them out and returned to his partner. "Ready to get back to work?" asked Paul. "Yes." It was late afternoon and Doris Palmer, a strung-out blonde, sat in a hard office chair being grilled by the Special Investigations top man. Agent Stillwell was relentless in his questioning. Over and over again, he made her go over her end of the plan. Over and over again, she told them she didn't know anything more than going to the locker. "All I was supposed to do is go to the locker, open it, and place my gym bag in it. And when you guys searched me, I was to leave and get into a cab. Don't you get it? I was a decoy, a diversion, so they could get away," explained Doris. "Who are they?" Stillwell asked. "I don't know. I met this guy at a bar and I gave him my number. I was contacted by telephone and told what to do and where to pick up my money. What was in the locker anyway?" "I'm sure I don't have to tell you, Miss Palmer, that we know all about you, and I don't have to remind you that you are still on probation and that you haven't reported to your parole officer in days. I could make a phone call to smooth things over, but you must cooperate. It's your choice. You go back to prison or tell me what you know and stay free. Doris's smile was tight. You can wheel and deal all you want. I don't know anything. If you want to be an ass and send me back to prison, that's up to you. I don't know anything. All right then, tell us what you know about Professor Grant. Doris snorted unladylike and shrugged. Do I look like the type of person who would hang with a professor? He would probably look down his nose at me. Professor Grant was kidnapped by your friends. She is the mother of a 7-year-old and her family is worried about her. Tell me where she is and then I won't make the call. Doris was stunned. She didn't know anything about a kidnapping. Those animals would kill her if she told them anything. What to do? What to do? I've already told you. I met this guy at the bar. He asked if I wanted to make some money. I gave him my number and waited for him to call. All I had to do was go to the hotel, ask for a key, and place my bag in it. Look, I swear on my mother's grave, I don't know anything. The key you got was for locker number 68. You went to 72? Why? I was told to go to that locker, no matter what number was on the key. Besides, it fit, didn't it? Doris answered question after question. Agent Stillwell was forced to let her go, but he'd keep an eye on her. Doris walked out of there feeling more scared than she had ever felt in her life. She walked several blocks before hailing a cab. 2 bullets to the head ended a life that had been on a downward spiral for years. The driver parked the cab in a deserted lot and walked away. The police got the call a half hour later when someone spotted the cab and went to investigate. When word reached Earl and Paul, they began to feel worried. Shortly after they found out about Rivera, they learned about Alfredo Santiago, Rivera's partner. He was found behind the dumpsters at a 7-Eleven. Earl realized that whoever was in charge was tying up loose ends. Rivera, Santiago, and Doris all dead. The sick feeling he had in the pit of his stomach wouldn't go away. They were cleaning house. He clung to the fact that Emma hadn't played an active part in the scheme of things. She was just a person who was at the wrong place at the wrong time. The partners entered the chief's office. He was affectionately called chief because of his Native American heritage. He looked up at them expectantly. We know our department was set up, Earl said. We've been working a case that really wasn't ours. Chief Lightfeather looked up at them and sighed heavily. Agent Stillwell only recently informed me of my department's role, but he specifically asked that you two work it. There are 3 dead, Chief. They're cleaning house and Earl couldn't go on. Well, gentlemen, you are just going to make sure the professor doesn't fall into that category. Go find her. Yes, sir. Earl smiled for the first time that day as he followed his partner out of the building. They drove to Paul's house. Earl watched Paul turn from the tough guy on the streets into a husband and father. Paul couldn't stop touching her and kissing her, and his boys were little balls of energy. He stayed for dinner, and then they holed up in Paul's home office to strategize. Hey, I just thought of something. Santiago, Rivera, and Doris Palmer are all out of the picture. When I surveyed them outside the college, there was this other dude. He might be the ringleader. He carried himself differently. Earl pulled out his phone and called Agent Stillwell. He suggested that they run facial recognition on the third guy. Stillwell relayed that he was already on it. These guys are clever. They knew we'd make the van, so they left the warehouse in a private vehicle. Somehow they knew every move we made before we made them. Bloody hell, someone's feeding them information, said Earl, and he was beginning to suspect who. Paul, Special Investigations arranged for us to do the grunt work for them, and while I was busy fuming about it, I didn't see what was really happening. Silver didn't arrive by normal routes because it originated here. It is traveling out. That's why the warehouse came into play. I bet SI knows who's taking it out, and I bet they'd known all along. Otherwise, why did they already have surveillance at the airport? Someone cut a deal with Rivera and it went sour, Earl reasoned. Paul picked up the thread. Let's say Rivera cut a deal but then changed his mind and wanted a bigger cut. That's why he planted the cylinders on Emma. Now, in order to get them back, they used her as leverage, knowing full well we'd find it for them. Earl was pacing and stopped suddenly. I don't think they'll hurt her. She's important. She's insurance of some kind. Yeah, you may be right. Paul agreed. It was getting late and they had no idea where to search for Emma. And if Earl's theory was right, then he failed to omit one detail. However important Emma may be, Once she's fulfilled her usefulness, she may very well be eliminated too. The thought was scary, and Paul could only guess what his partner was thinking. Well, that's it for now. If you're enjoying this story, comment what you think is going to happen next. Do you think the detectives will find Emma soon? Who do you think is behind all of this? Please like and share, and don't forget to subscribe to join our family.